Hello everyone, it's Old Guardian here. In this Warcraft Rumble video, I want to take a detailed look and also review the new event system that Blizzard built for Warcraft Rumble, because this is actually a pretty major engineering effort for Warcraft Rumble, and I really like this system a lot. Obviously, the part of the system that people have been talking about is the new missions tab and the missions and the difficulty levels of missions, but there's a lot more to this system. So the new system debuted in the Priestess event, which is about to end when I'm recording this video, and it's a significant internal change in how events can be created and how they can be run. And this has greatly streamlined event creation. It's now super easy for Blizzard to create events and to create various, so many different types of challenges for these events. The system also allows Blizzard to reuse any of the around 100 maps that they have created for the game, with tons of custom features for these maps. So this is a huge thing for Rumble, because think about all the 100 maps, then do you even remember the first 30 maps in the campaign? Were they ever truly that challenging? And if you did them, then that was long ago. Now all of those can have a brand new life. The main feature of the new event system are the event missions. Event missions are finally separate from quests. Previously, Blizzard had to replace a quest slot and then put those event missions over there. But now they're separate from quests. Any map can be used easily in these event missions. That means campaign maps, dungeon maps, even raid and siege maps if they so choose. So all this content that they have created for the game, they can reuse in these missions. And they can also time gate the missions and the challenges, so there's no more this pseudo time gating that they used to have. For example, like House and Event, they had this event tree where you had to go through a specific point at the time, so that they pseudo time gated the content with that. No more. Now they can do time gating exactly as they want. Unlike with the old quest implementation, the event missions can have custom difficulty levels. The Priestess event used 3, and it looks like the Lich King event is going to use 4 difficulty levels. And they can also have custom requirements to enter. And all of this can be configured super simply in the code. So basically now creativity sets the limits. The developers have easy access to every single map, every single boss, every single mini in the game, and they can give those minis custom characteristics. They can create, for example, spawns based on shared map features, like spawns with minis, spawns with towers. They can modify how minis function. They can filter these modifications based on mini characteristics, so certain types of minis gain abilities while other minis don't. They can freely define any phase transitions for the bosses. They can freely define the effects that happen on phase transition. They can define the phase transition thresholds. They can make as many phases as they like. They can manipulate the decks of both the player and they can manipulate the deck of the boss. So they can just do so many things, and all of this very easily. For example, the way they built the Priestess event was that they had 2 sets of modifiers, a Plague set and a Frost set, and the same modifier was used for 3 bosses. For the Plague modifier there was normal difficulty, and that added boss phases, and it added Priestess to player decks. Then they had the Heroic difficulty, which had all of the modifiers from normal, and in addition to that it had a modifier to add beetles with minis and add die battling spawning from towers. And then they had the Mythic difficulty, which again had all of the modifiers from normal and heroic, and then it also had the poison to the entire enemy army modifier. So with very little configuration work, they were able to create multiple bosses. In this case, 6 bosses with 2 sets of modifiers. Obviously, they could also add specific tweaks for each boss individually, but at least in this event, they just created a generic set of modifiers and then applied that to the missions. The reception of the new system has varied a little. There has been criticism from multiple directions, although I think the overall sentiment has been quite positive. If we look at the criticism, one of them has been about scaling difficulty. You cannot make the fights easier by leveling minis because the difficulty scales, so you cannot pay your way to win this fight. And to be honest, I don't really get that too much, because I think this is wonderful. There's difficulty levels already there for various players, and we want to have difficult content in the game. And if you build content that's only scaling or doesn't scale, so it's like level 31 or something, you're limiting it to a tiny number of whales. And there just aren't that many whales in this game, so I don't think it makes any sense to create content for whales for this game. In quite the contrary, they are moving to a different monetization strategy here a little bit, because the other complaint is that this is too pay to win. It's ironic, it's complaint that this isn't pay to win, and then there's complaint that this is pay to win, because there's barriers to entry. some difficulty levels in the Priestess event. There were limits. You needed epic minis, you needed rare minis, so you couldn't access all the difficulty levels. And this is kind of like their new mid-range monetization strategy. Hey, they are trying to encourage people to get some epic minis, and the wider your epic roster, the more easily you can complete the fights. Oh, it does actually help with the fights, because you can build your team more freely, but you still don't get a free pass, like you can't completely trivialize the content. But it looks like Blizzard taking some action on the pay-to-win argument, because for the Lich King event there are strings for easy plus pre-made difficulty. So for really new players who don't necessarily have the teams to really build for much of anything, then they can get a pre-made team and they can still go through the challenge and get some of the rewards. Another complaint that I have seen is that assets are being reused, although I really don't see this complaint. Like, in every game you want to reuse assets. They have spent a lot of work. They built this game for several years in order to build all of the 100 different encounters. And let's say something like Gold Tooth. You don't meet Gold Tooth very often. And now they can make that Gold Tooth relevant for your level again. So you get to experience the fight in a new way and also add so many different modifiers to it. So I don't really see the asset reuse being a bad thing at all. I see that as a really good thing. You can create interesting, new, challenging content and still reuse some of the assets so that you can do it with less work. So that's just win-win for everybody. And finally, there's the argument about the time-limited nature of these boss fights. So first of all, time gating may leave you only little time for the last event boss, like we had Relgor only for 3 days in the Priestess event, although Relgor was easy. So you kind of have to do it like that. If you only very little time for a boss, you have to make it easy so that people will actually be able to do it. So they really have to be careful about how much time do they leave for the last boss. 4 days, 5 days, how many days does it have to have so that they could build it on the same line as all the other bosses? Or if it's very little time, then it has to be super easy. And also, like, these are going to go away then, and then you won't have a chance to participate in these again. But that's sort of the idea of the event system anyway, and the event system is not meant to replace the final end game. The way I see it, the event system is something that they can now build super easily and super quickly, so they should be able to churn out these events, one event after another, as long as they have creativity. Very little effort, and they can keep the game going until they then can release something bigger like a new raid. Obviously, I don't know if they're working on a new raid, but I mean, if they want to keep this in the long term, they should, because the event system is something that it's not something that's going to keep players around alone. But it's definitely something that can keep players around for months while you build something bigger that you can then release. And this is super important that they managed to get the engineering effort done to build this, and I'm super excited about this. I think this is the best addition to Rumble since Molten Core. And if they just keep building new raids alongside a system like this, then that could keep Rumble going for years. Thank you for watching. Click like and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and a special thanks to all of my Patreon supporters, YouTube members and Twitch subscribers who make all of these videos possible.